I have talked much about the upcoming Captain Marvel film and why I am not enthused by its trailer. I wasn't. Doesn't mean I'm going to hate the movie. Everybody's freaking out. There's articles popping up that saying a bunch of sexist men are criticizing Captain Marvel. Bullshit. You know what? I've been watching... I love Marvel movies. I've been sitting around watching... I just watched Civil War, and I watched all the Captain America movies. And I kind of got bummed because they still haven't done a Black Widow movie. And I gotta admit, Captain Marvel's trailer made me really, really appreciate how good Scarlett Johansson is at what she does. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow is incredible. I actually feel like Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, without any powers, is substantially more imposing and powerful than Captain Marvel appears to be. Okay? I watched Captain Marvel trailer. She seems frail and weak, even with superpowers. I'm just not feeling it. And Black Widow seems like, if you say the wrong thing, like you actually have a reason to fear her. So I was kind of like, man, it kind of bums me out that they're doing a Captain Marvel movie before Black Widow, because Black Widow, I mean, she's an established character. We know she is, and we are ready for a Black Widow film. It will be badass. I really love Winter Soldier because it's like a political thriller. It's cool. It's like the bad guy is within, and it's not all about superpowers. It's just about, I don't know, I mean, kind of, but it's mostly about corrupt, sleeper cell within S.H.I.E.L.D. and good movie. I'd love to see something like that with Black Widow. Would be badass. Anyway, I got a couple articles pulled up. This one's from Forbes about a week ago, and it says, Captain Marvel is being set up to fail. This guy actually makes a really good point, okay? So this is a film critic. Obviously, because he's a white male, people are ragging on him for being critical of Captain Marvel. He talks about how you've got Captain Marvel, Wonder Woman 1984, Birds of Prey, Black Widow coming up, people are all excited. But he says something, he says, with enough regularity that we won't have to treat these as do-or-die events every time out, he says, among other things, Captain Marvel doesn't have to be a top $1 billion, to be a hit. Basically what he's saying is we've got a bunch of these movies coming out, they're all women, and everyone's expecting them to be like these big blockbusters, like massive, high-grossing record breakers like Black Panther, and he's saying it probably won't. Okay, so here's what he says. Wonder Woman, well, we'll start here. He says, I don't want to pick a single article, but CNBC ran a post yesterday calling Captain Marvel Marvel's next billion-dollar star. He says, allow me to nip this in the bud right now. Captain Marvel could be another billion-dollar-plus worldwide grosser, however, that's not remotely a guarantee at this premature juncture. It may not even match the domestic $413 million or $821 million worldwide totals of Wonder Woman. Unless Marvel and Walt Disney went uncharacteristically over budget, it won't have to. Should Captain Marvel find itself on the defensive when it only earns what Ant-Man and the Wasp did, what he said, should she? Right, so basically, if everyone keeps claiming that Captain Marvel is going to be this big, huge hit, because Black Panther was, and, he doesn't really talk about it in the article, but come on, we know it's like the social justice narrative. First of all, Black Panther was a great movie. It was. I love how they were rather fearless in their approaching politics. Like, there's a scene in Black Panther where one of the Wakandans is actually like, we shouldn't bring in refugees, they bring their problems with us. And it is an isolationist country, so, and it's ethnocentric, it's crazy. So they were unabashed. But now everyone's trying to play the same thing, saying like, oh, first female lead, it's going to make so much money, and it's going to prove the patriarchy wrong and all that stuff. But he makes a really good point. He says, Wonder Woman benefited from rave reviews and a narrative of Gal Gadot's female superhero saving the DC Extended Universe after the critically slammed Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad. It offered a solo female director, Patty Jenkins, showing that women could make mega-budget action blockbusters that were at least as good as the male-directed competition. It had the good fortune to open after the relatively underwhelming King Arthur, Alien Covenant, and Pirates of the Caribbean 5, and before the relatively underwhelming The Mummy, Cars 3, and Transformers The Last Night. It slew all relevant competition right up until Illumination's Despicable Me 3 and Marvel and Sony's Spider-Man Homecoming. Captain Marvel will have to contend with potentially heavier competition. No, I don't think the Lego Movie 2 or X-Men Dark Phoenix will pull a Black Panther and steamroll the competition well into April. The Brie Larson superhero flick opens right between DreamWorks Animation's How to Train Your Dragon 3 and Jordan Peele's Us, while having just 3 weeks before Walt Disney's own Tim Burton-directed Dumbo movie. I will not be seeing that movie anyway. It has a month before DC films Shazam. That I am gonna see. Shazam looks so good. but a month should be enough time to foretell the film's fate. Point being, if the February and March flicks are good then, Captain Marvel will become less of an event. Yes. And I also want to point out, Captain Marvel trailer, didn't like it. I asked my friends about it. Okay, my friends are uninitiated. They're just regular old folks who play card games. They don't pay attention to the news. And they said, meh. Some of my friends were like, I didn't even bother to see it. And I'm like, wow. And like, my friends are comic book fans. Like, you know, we watch Justice League cartoons. We're fans of this stuff. And then you have Shazam, where all of my friends are freaking out about how excited they are about it. Because the trailer was amazing. It was hilarious. And my, like, people I talk to are excited for it. I'm excited for it. So I'm gonna skip over to this next article. This one's from the Mary Sue, and it says, Captain Marvel is already facing off against male critics. Here we go. So it starts by saying, the Captain Marvel trailer has barely been out for a month, and already critics, mostly Scott Mendelson of Forbes, who famously called Black Panther a nightmare for studios, he did, apparently, are saying it's being set up to fail. It refers to the piece in Forbes, uses this quote, and then Mary Sue goes on to say, I don't know, I was pretty much over the DCU at the time, but I sure bought that opening day Wonder Woman ticket because I knew that if the film failed, the future of female-led superhero films would once more be called into question, and female directors would be sidelined even more. Similarly, I bought Black Panther opening night because the film looked brilliant and because a superhero film with a black director and an all-black cast matters immensely in cinematic history. Maybe for Mendelson, who can see himself in front of and behind the camera whenever he chooses, this isn't a big deal. For others it is. And there you have it, the social justice narrative of why films should or shouldn't fail. And I gotta point out that I've never bought into this very much, simply because we have had tons of movies with female leads, and they've done really, really well. I don't know if you could say, like for X-Men, for instance, you had Mystique, played by Jennifer Lawrence. Pretty sure that's a lead role, right? Like, I'm not wrong about that. I don't know, it's an ensemble cast, I guess, so I don't know how you define the lead or not. But look, Jennifer Lawrence, period, has consistently done well. She's Katniss Everdeen. Like, The Hunger Games, great. Everybody watched it, you know? So, I definitely think it's fair to say that when we're talking about superhero movies, it's mostly guys, right? I don't think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has any female-led movies, which is kind of crazy to me. Because, as I pointed out in the beginning, if Marvel's, like, fourth or fifth movie was Black Widow, I'd go see it. Like, here's the thing. People don't understand this. When Iron Man came out, when the Hulk came out, these were not A-list Marvel characters. Marvel sold their A-list characters, like Spider-Man's. I'm pretty sure Spider-Man's like the most popular Marvel character. Now Iron Man is, I'm pretty sure. When Iron Man came out, it was like, oh, that's cool. I'll go see an Iron Man movie, because Marvel sold the X-Men to, I believe, Sony. No, not Sony, to Fox. And now they got the rights back. And they sold Spider-Man to Sony. That's what it was. Now Sony's doing like Venom and stuff. But anyway, the point is, Black Widow was never a really big A-list character or anything like that, but they could absolutely give Black Widow the Iron Man treatment and make a really good movie with great action. I mean, look, Black Widow debuted in Iron Man 2, right? Like, Scarlett Johansson does an incredible job, you know? So, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to get into a tangent about why I would be a big fan of them doing Black Widow, but I do want to point out, I'm not a fan of Captain Marvel. I'm like, cool character, sure, whatever. I think Black Widow's way more badass. And I feel like what's being said here in the Mary Sue is probably spot on. Marvel, in my opinion, is probably saying, let's do Captain Marvel for, you know, social justice reasons. And I would assume they're betting that they could have this big female superhero event. When Wonder Woman came out, I had friends tell me that they were so excited that they finally had a movie with a female lead. Like, I kid you not, framed that way. I'm like, oh, like I understand like a female superhero, for sure. But I think the narrative got all muddy. And I said to one of my friends, it doesn't have to be about the fact that she's a woman. Can we just acknowledge that Wonder Woman is a good film and it's awesome that it made money? My friends got mad at me. A couple of them. It's not like there was like 80 people screaming. It was like 2 or 3 people. And they're like, no, man, like you don't understand what it's like to be a woman and to see like a woman on the screen as like a hero. And I'm like, Katniss Everdeen led a revolution and like changed the world and stood on principle, and that was only a few years ago, you know. So she's not a superhero, but you know, in my opinion, superhero is just a framing of like a regular hero movie. Like in my opinion, the protagonist doesn't matter if they're a superhero or not. All you're saying is like, look, Katniss Everdeen is great with a bow, and she's smart and she's clever. She has abilities, you know. Sure, Wonder Woman has the lasso of truth and can smack her bracers together and make explosions or whatever, but in my opinion, all that's relevant is the protagonist. You know, what is their character? But for that matter, I've never really been one to be shocked or like complaining about male or female characters in movies, and perhaps it's because I am a man and just don't understand, but I grew up watching anime and cartoons that always had female characters in prominent roles, and it never really occurred to me, ever. It's really weird because I feel like growing up on the South Side where everyone's kind of like, there's just different races, just, you know, Latino, Asian, white, black, whatever, and then watching cartoons where you had female lead characters and you know, ancillary female characters and strong female characters, it's just weird. You know, like every cartoon I watched growing up had female characters involved that were doing things that were relevant. And then all of a sudden this narrative started emerging about how it's always white men and stuff, and I was just like, oh, never really occurred to me. I guess you could say Ash Ketchum is like a white male, but I'm pretty sure he's Japanese. But, you know, like when I grew up watching the X-Men and stuff, there's a bunch of female characters, you know, like Jean Grey and Rogue. And Rogue was like one of the strongest, but I think that's because she sapped all the power out of Captain Marvel or something. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. The point is, we are going to have a Captain Marvel social justice battle up until the film comes out. And I'm really getting to the point where I'm just like, oh man, I do not... look, I love Marvel movies. I don't want to miss this, but if the culture war stuff gets too intense, I'm out. Will Captain Marvel make a lot of money? I think it will, because Marvel does a really good job. Their movies are great, in my opinion. So regardless of the political hubbub that's surrounding the film, I'm sure it'll do well. Like Black Panther did fantastic, and I thought it was a great movie. I loved Black Panther. So I'm pretty sure Captain Marvel will be a good movie too. But I gotta say, man, Chadwick Boseman, I'm pretty sure that's his name. He's amazing. His T'Challa is awesome. He's badass. When I look at Brie Larson, I'm just not excited. Anyway, whatever. I've got some more videos coming up in just a few minutes, so stick around.